If people really understood what's going on, we're too used to the rights we've had. It wouldn't be tolerated. If people really truly understood what was going on, there would be a major political reaction, and the people that are in power right now would not be there. And they don't want to take the chance. And that's what people have to understand, that there still is this vestige of democracy here, and we still should be exercising it before the police state apparatus descends, that doesn't really and truly removes from us the capacity to take control of our destiny.
The Founding Fathers of the United States desired people to have the right to life, liberty, and property, along with the free will to enjoy them and the responsibility to respect the rights of others. After fighting their revolution for freedom from colonialism, the founders were intelligent enough to retain a healthy fear of the similar threats posed by corporate power and wisely limited corporations exclusively to a business role. In the United States of America, up until around the mid to late 1800s, in order to create a company or corporation, you would have to go through the arduous process of earning a charter from a particular state, which was both limited in duration and function, needing to be renewed, but also subject to rules, regulations, and heavy taxes. They were also mandated to serve the public interest, with profit being the result to shareholders who were part of the public. If they exceeded their authority, went against their charter, or went against the public interest, a corporation's charter could be revoked, rendering it invalid, and essentially destroying it in the legal sense. The concept of corporate personhood came about around this time, which quickly gained popularity with business leaders. Discussed and dissected at length in the brilliant film The Corporation, corporate personhood is the act of giving a company, which is a legal corporation or entity, the privileges of a regular human person, such as the ability to own property, hold assets, contribute to politics, or influence legislation. With this change in the law, the corporation had gained legal status along with rights and duties, becoming an artificial person.
A sovereign individual is a human who is no longer a corporation, thus no longer being ascribed by certain duties and rights.
What I uncovered was that when a person is registered from birth, it's at that point in time that they are actually being created, or that a legal person is being created and associated with them. And it's kind of like, it's at that point where you join a club, and when you join this club, you're given, say, a membership card. The card itself would be your person, as opposed to the human being who is the member of the club.
Person is, even in English, person is a persona. So it's not really you, it's something that you're creating. So, you know, from English to law, it means the same thing. It's an entity, something that you create or somebody else creates and you give power to.
Because we're all equal, nobody has a right to govern you without your consent. So they require evidence that you have consented to this. The person is that evidence, that card, or the say your identification, which would identify you as a person. All of this is what they need to see so that they know that they do have the right to act upon you.
After the U.S. Civil War in 1868, a corporation was created by members of the Bank of England called United States Company. The owners of this company decided that the employees of the United States would not be called employees, but citizens. To run this corporation would be a board of directors called the United States Government, and they would have a president just like any company. It would also have a constitution, just like the Republic called America, and people who signed up to be employee citizens would be given political and legal rights, like voting and owning land.
I think they did it when they got everyone to become a government employee. And then that's this way, where normally they would be our servants and we would be in charge of them. They tricked us all into getting social insurance numbers. These numbers identify us as a government employee. We're receiving benefits, as they call them, and therefore we are bound by the rules that bind all government employees. And so they've tricked us. We're a nation of people employed by the government, bound by the rules that the government makes, but only because we are employed by them.
However, there is a grand distinction between the United States Corporation, which is a company, and the United States of America, which is the geographical location and country. Today we live in a world where we are sold on the notion that our fundamental rights still exist, but there are times when we must wonder if this is true. For example, we can have the full force of the law brought down upon us over a traffic violation, income tax irregularity, refusing to fill in a census form, even growing or using natural substances. These offenses do no harm to another human being and in no way violate any individual's fundamental rights and freedoms. So we must ask, how did things get like this? The answer is that your fundamental rights and freedoms are still intact as a natural person, but you've been tricked into believing that you have to follow the laws created for the corporate artificial persons. This deception has only grown over the last 140 years. Some argue this period in history was the seed of what has grown into today's expansive modern legal system. Others believe that this was the beginning of the end for the great experiment known as the Republic of the United States of America. As a human being, you have guaranteed unalienable human rights. By virtue of existing and being what is known as a child of God, whatever religion you may or may not subscribe to, your rights come from the concept that you're a result of divine creation. This is supported by documents throughout history like the Magna Carta, UN Declaration of Human Rights, various constitutions, bills of rights, and charters of rights and freedoms of different countries. Unalienable, or unalienable rights, as in, no one can place a lien on your rights. They are yours to use freely.
The most fundamental thing that I've learned through all this is that they speak English, but it's a whole other language coming out of their mouth. And hence lawyers spending 8 years or whatever it takes to become a lawyer. They're trying to go and understand what the words and how this thing works.
If you try and speak to them in English or any other language, they won't be able to engage with you. You need to use their documents. And the reason why you need to use their documents is because you are within their corporation.
Well, they certainly don't teach you about what the law is about. A lot of times there seems to be a more of a societal or a community conditioning where people that at 16 they go in there get their driver's license and it's a big deal for them, and yet they never ask themselves first, do I really need a driver's license in order to exercise rights? They get a social insurance number because they want to work legally in Canada, but yet they never study and understand the difference between, say, a contract for service and a contract for hire. So they're, to a large degree, they don't really teach much. It's almost more of a conditioning program that conditions you to believe certain falsehoods.
If you don't know your rights, you don't have any. And if you have to ask someone else what your rights are, you've just given them the power to tell you what your rights are.